Hey y'all, Dusty Cabbage. You know, I'm back with another story, and stories from the road, and this is probably the one time where I'm not going to disclose the actual location of where this went down, and I'm probably going to change some names, or maybe just not give you some names this time, because it's a little sensitive and I don't want people in that community to, you know, start giving hell to their Chamber of Commerce. So this is several years ago, and I was in this little town. Well, I say little town, it's about 80,000 people, about 77,000 people to be exact. In this little town, performing gigs, and after a gig one night, this young lady came up to me and she said, hey, and she introduced her boyfriend to me and whatnot, and she said, you know what, I work here at the local Chamber of Commerce, and we have our big annual banquet tomorrow night. And, you know, we just appreciate you coming and performing in our town, and we would love for you to come to this annual banquet if you can stay another night. And I'm like, well, absolutely. What a privilege and an honor that would be to be able to join your business leaders at this banquet. So I go to the event, and I'm at a big table. It sat, I don't know, 8 or 10 or 12 people. I don't remember exactly. This is some time ago. And sitting there, and I'm sitting next to the young lady that invited me and her boyfriend, and then there's some other people that work there at the Chamber of Commerce at that table. But I had the privilege of sitting next to this gentleman who was in charge of, I guess they're called big box retail stores, you know, like the big ones that are out there, where you get in and you walk around forever, and it's like well over 100,000 square feet of retail stuff that you can buy in there. And I'm not going to say exactly what industry they were in, but they sold stuff. So, but I sat next to this gentleman, and he was in town because he was setting up a new store for this retailer in this town. And this was like a really big deal for this town because they didn't have a big shopping space. So, sitting next to this gentleman, and apparently his job was to go around the Midwest, that was his region, to set up these big stores in new towns. So I'm talking to him, and we're just having a great time. And this is just to paint the picture, this is a very distinguished looking older gentleman. I'd guess he was probably 70 years old, bald, silver mustache, glasses. He had some years behind him, and he had a lot of experiences, I'm sure. But as he and I are sitting there, he just kept saying things to me. You know, we were kind of hitting it off, talking about hunting and fishing and doing all these good old boy things. And he lived out back east somewhere. And so he's telling me about all these things. And he keeps telling me about this house that he's got. And he almost described it like it's a castle. And he's like, you're going to have to come out to my place sometime, man, and we can do some hunting and fishing. And every one of my bedrooms has a stone fireplace in it. And I'm like, well, that sounds pretty amazing, man. Yeah, I'll come out there and hunt and fish with you. That's not a big deal. And then as the time went on, he just kept kind of talking to me about how much he liked me. And it got to a point where he just kept saying these weird things. But I'd really like to get together with you. Hey, why don't we get together tomorrow? Why don't you swing by my hotel room and we can find something to do? And I'm like, well, I got to hit the road, man. I got to get out there. I got to keep making music and getting paid. And it's like, well, how about tonight after this event, we come back to my hotel room and we can find something to do? And I'm like, I'm kind of tired, man. I've had a couple of drinks. I'm ready for the sack. He's like, oh, well, now you're talking. I'm like, okay, whatever. And so I just kind of brushed it off and kept going eating my dinner. And then he leans over to me and he says, I'm AC/DC. And I'm like, well, that's great. Thunderstruck, man. Knock yourself out. And so I just keep eating my dinner, and I'm looking around. I see the other people at the table, and they're all just kind of staring at he and I. And they're all kind of snickering and laughing. And he leans over again and he says, I'm AC/DC. And I said, I heard you the first time. And he says, I accept both voltages if you know what I'm talking about. So then, I was still a little naive at this time, I guess. And, you know, then I get to my dessert, because this meal's gone on for a while. Get to my dessert, and I'm, you know, eating away at the cheesecake or whatever it was that's put in front of me. And he leans over and he says, if it makes you more comfortable, and he pointed to the gal that invited me to the banquet, pointed at her, she can come over and watch. Hello. That's when it all started to get the wheels spinning. This guy didn't want to go hunt and fish with Dusty. He wanted a piece of Dusty's ass. Okay? Now, this is like communication. You know, a few days ago I talked about don't just hear one side of somebody's story, go and find the other side of the story and make your mind up about what you think there in the middle. But this is a time where Dusty was a little naive and he didn't ask better questions. He kind of walked into this trap, or I kind of walked into this trap. Maybe it's not even a trap. I just walked into some territory that I wasn't real comfortable walking into, and I didn't know I was walking into it. So my question should have been, what do you mean you're AC/DC? And then, but anyway, it all finally clicked, and all the rest of the people at the table were just having a ball with this because they knew Dusty didn't roll that particular direction. So anyway, the point of this story is ask better questions when you don't know exactly what somebody's trying to tell you. We got our first responders running down the road here. We got to give a big hand to the first responders as they're doing their thing this afternoon. You know, but the point is, you gotta ask better questions when you get into some territory and you're not quite sure what the heck it is. And all this to say, I should put a little disclaimer on this. Dusty doesn't care who loves who or what kind of activities you're into. Just use a little discernment to see maybe if the other person's a similar sports enthusiast, because basically that gentleman was inviting a Chiefs fan to go root for the Raiders, and that's just not how this one works. So anyway, folks, ask better questions. More stories from the road are coming up, and I promise you every one of them are true. So we look forward next time. Like, follow, tell your friends about Dusty Cabbage. We'll see if we can build a little fun following here. Anyway, y'all have a fantastic day. Smile. Thank God for everything He's given you.